Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Our attorney is just running and getting a folder, but we'll go ahead and get started. This is the East Lansing City Charter Review Committee for Thursday, June 26th. It actually happens to be the last one that is scheduled on our plan, and we're closing up things. So we'll start with the roll call by Grace.
Lynn Richardson.
Here.
Pam Wheel. Jeffrey Hank.
Present.
Ruben Martinez. Diane Gadiris.
Present.
Veronica Wilkerson Johnson.
Present.
Jill Rhodey.
Here.
Jonathan Foreman.
Here.
Gail Krudoff.
All right, thanks. Nice full house here. And I would just remind everybody to speak into the microphones. Grace has reminded us it's important for the video to be able to hear your voices coming through. So we'll move on to item 1.2, approval of the agenda. And I'm going to move approval of the agenda with the addition of 4.3, Chapter 17, the City Library, and 4.4, Chapter 4.9. And then renumber the following 4.3 and 4.4 to follow. So I'm moving that. Is there a second?
I'll support.
Moved by Gadaris, supported by Weil. And the reason I'm going to do this, we've got some feedback on both of those two items and felt like we needed to have those included in our discussion since we got written communications on that. Also, I just wanted to see if anyone else wanted to add anything to this final agenda. I know you sent something, Veronica. Did you want to have that up for discussion too or not?
That's a good question. I probably not, since I think it was concluded that we probably wouldn't do that. So I gave it more for information.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
So
Oh, Jeff.
for the item that will be the whiteboard list, is that just things that are on this list, or can we talk about other ideas?
I believe that's open for us all to do.
Oh, okay.
And there are some other things that we added that weren't missed on this one, but okay. So it's been moved and seconded. No more discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Now we'll move. Yes, we did. I'll move approval of the minutes of June 12th, 2025. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Gadaris, seconded by Wilkerson Johnson. I'm so used to calling you just Johnson, so sorry. Wilkerson Johnson, any corrections to the minutes that you saw? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The minutes are approved. Okay, written communications. We had a few, and as a result of that, as I said, we added a couple things to the agenda. At your table here, Grace was good enough to reorder the our approved resolutions, and she ordered them in the order of chapters. So this one here that's at the table is the same one that you had in the packet, except it's not by date of approval, it's by the chapter. So as we present to council or they go through at council, we'll have that order and not have to fiddle back and forth. So thank you, Grace. That was late this afternoon. And then you have on your desk a communication that came to me after we had posted the agenda, and that is from Polly Sink related to the library. And that's why I put that on the agenda, because you can look at that then. And then Kathy DeChambeau's here, and we talked early about trying to understand where the records were in Hannah here, so that you have an understanding when we talk about transparency and how to get the records. And she's here willing to give us a tour of the basement if you want to see where the records are. That will be up to you as a committee, because she's here to show us. And if we did that, it would be probably prudent to take a break right now and do that, and then we could come back for the things. Joe. Sure, and I see Kathy has one too.
So I want to clarify that the records retention that we have here in the basement of Hannah is by department, and this is records retention for the purposes of state requirements, right? So records that have to be held for 7 or 10 years are in boxes, they're in some cases, it's a locked room. You will not be able to get visibility into that. We don't have keys to those rooms. We would have to go to the individual departments to do that. Then in some cases, it's caged storage. And so there are boxes, or in some cases for the children's theater, there are props, and there's a costume area down there that is also locked. So in terms of what you could see, it will be pretty limited because for finance or police records, for some of the others, they're behind closed doors, and I would not be able to let you into those spaces except if we were to get the key from those departments, and make arrangements. So it's a basement of a very old building. It's not super pleasant in the basement, so I'll let you know that. We can take a service elevator down for anyone who can't do stairs or is comfortable doing stairs, but we'll have to make a couple trips if there's more than just a few people. And then we can take a little walk around. And so I'll literally just be showing you behind those doors are police storage. In this cage, we have fire department plans that they store for when they're reviewing, a project, and the fire department's going over it's all the plans from all the projects that have to be held are there. So I'm just giving you an idea of what you might see, trying to understand what it is you're looking for.
These rooms climate control to protect the documents.
How long do the records go back? Some of them are.
So it depends, each department's responsible for their records for storage, so if certain records have to be held for 7 years, a state requirement, or 10 years, that's how long they're in there, and those departments go in and they're in charge of taking care of their documents.
Because I think, Jill, I think what your answer, the answer to your question is you'd have to talk to the head of each department.
Correct. But what I was going to say is the state of Michigan has retention documents for every municipality. You have to keep this long. You have to keep this long.
Sure.
That's what she's talking about. So there's a state requirement on how long you keep things. Things like payroll are kept forever, but other things are kept based on this retention rule.
I guess I was curious, like someone built a house in 1930s, that it's some designs that still on file somewhere.
In the city.
So that would be a question for the planning department. We could find that out if that was something. Planning does have storage down there, whether something like that would be in that storage, or whether that's been somehow put in some electronic storage, or whether that was even required to be kept. I don't know.
Who gets to access files out there? Is it limited to a handful of people, or?
Be someone within that department to the department's files.
So the plan of development for, say, a business, like Coolidge Court, let's say, would that have to be kept forever? Or how would we go back and see if they've kept the conditions that were required when they?
So that would be a planning question. They would have the answer to that specific information.
Mark?
And maybe Tony can weigh in on this because we have looked for the approval. What FOIA requires is that the municipality submit its retention plan. And that retention plan has to be approved by Records Management Services, the Archives of Michigan, and the State Administrative Board. And I couldn't find any evidence at one time when I was looking for it that we had actually done that. So I'm not sure what our record retention is on any particular department. So there could be records down there from, 1920. We just don't know. Nobody has gone down and gone through those records. I know that Robert, somebody was down there pulling some records from some activity that we had in the 1990s. But that's all I know about. And I think it would behoove us to get a copy of any approval from the state of Michigan, because I can't find that we have a particular copy of that anywhere.
So I did this for the university for many years, digital side, and so digital archiving and, very much all of Kathy's answers, we do the storing, we don't have any content management tools. They tell us it's here and you lock it here. So I might suggest that that's something you talk to directors of the department to report their understanding. And what we found is you unearth, oh, that is the plan network, what's using this one. So somebody will have it doing it right, then you could propagate that.
Well, if we had gotten the approvals from the state, we have a copy somewhere, but I have not been able to.
Right, but I'm saying you might poll the department directors, we have any left.
Or
That's what you do.
to see if they have on file.
Yeah, so the state does have a standard record retention policy that you can adopt. And so we did adopt that, whether it did get sent back to the state for actual approval. It's one that they provide to all municipalities to say you can adopt this and you'll be consistent with all of our requirements. But I do know we certainly are in compliance with them with the one item, just for clarification, that we don't necessarily go back and cull them, such that if it says 7 years in year 8, we're going to go back and actively cull them to make sure. So if anything, we probably have a lot more older documents than we're required to have.
We have nothing beyond the retention period.
And there's no obligation, the minimum, not a max.
Right, but also throw it away.
So it sounds like we put on our whiteboard list, a letter to council that says we'd like to ask that in, because based on our transparency article, has spent so much time on it. We'd like to have from the state what we have to require, and from the departments, what has been held. So that from this point, when the charter has been reviewed, we're all on the same page as what we have, what we're required to have, and the next group can look at that and see where they go from there.
That might be the start of a process, so, Diane, so, yeah.
But that's out of her
Yeah,
hands.
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Okay, Veronica, sorry.
So anecdotally, is there a procedure, and can anyone call the planning department one day and say, I'm looking for something relative to a subdivision in East Lansing back in the 1940s? I mean, can they do that, or is there a procedure? Do they have to go through a certain, like an attorney or something like that? It's just a FOIA request.
It
It's
can be
not.
done as a FOIA request.
Okay.
Kathy, do you have any idea how often they come over here for FOIA stuff? Do you have any kind of feel?
I really don't. That's really gonna be department based, and they may not need to come here to fulfill a FOIA. It may be that they have records within
Digitized or in the.
digitized 9%. So it might not be necessary. I can't answer that. An individual department head could answer how many times they have come here to access their file.
But we did talk about a FOIA log, and that they're gonna redo that. They had that for a while, and I'm sure that the FOIA log would identify the location of if they had to find a hard copy, or how they satisfied it.
The only time that I recall that we had one where we had to come and search in the basement was about 2 or 3 years ago. Because if the document request is something that we might find in the basement after hours of searching, we do have to require a deposit and estimate it'll be 10 or 100 hours. And at the time, it was a very complex request related to litigation, and so it was several $1,000s. So I specifically remember that, but it doesn't happen very often.
Okay, so it sounds like nobody's interested in actually going on a field trip and seeing. Oh, you are. So, all right.
Can I say one more thing? Kathy is retiring. And I want to say that she has been a real asset to the city, and I was on the Parks Committee when she came in as chair, and have been very pleased and very sorry to lose her. So, Thank you for your
Yeah,
service.
we're not gonna meet again to thank you formally and thank you.
I'm glad I got to meet this group on your very last meeting.
Scheduled meeting, we hope. All right, so then I'll call for a little break and whoever wants to go down, we'll do that right now. And then, we'll come back and resume at 2:2.
The storage area is a non-student area from my middle school days, so that area would have been available. So I don't know. When they start storing stuff,
I do not know an exact date. I know when the building opened, so that would
remodel. They may have been storing some stuff prior. And it's certainly an expansive space.
I know that the office has stored in the basement in the whole time I've been here in the city, which has been 13 years, so. And I recall finance and others as well.
Okay, so we'll bring the meeting, open the meeting back up here, and Kathy's just gonna stay if there's any questions from anybody that they wanna ask her before she takes off. Oh, okay, thank you very much, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Congratulations.
Okay, so then we move on to 2.2, communications from the audience, and I see no one here to talk to us. Communications from committee members. Anybody have anything to say? Mr. Hank,
Just briefly, I'll probably touch on this later, but, a little,
can you turn your microphone on? I turned them off because people were talking while you were downstairs and I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I'll bring this up later with the whiteboard section, but I thought maybe just had to see here that, had a discussion with, Ingham County Clerk Barb Byram and, former East Lansing Clerk Ray Wicks the other night. And, they brought up something I had never really thought about. And I feel like we might have sort of discussed it, but I'm not sure if we did, and that was the timing of our city elections. I know this has sort of been an issue, that can be looked at in different ways. Barb's point was it would make it a lot easier on the county and it would be more financially better for the city if we just did elections in even years. I know there's a political consideration and people can look at this different ways, and I don't want to give anyone an impression, that I would, personally feel like anyone, I think everybody's votes count, everybody's votes are important, all that sort of stuff. But I think what's happened in the community is that people like having the off-year elections because frankly, like the students don't vote as often. And you get more of the residents voting and, people time certain things to go on certain ballots because of that. And I can see advantages, disadvantages to that, it is nice to have people who are fully engaged in the community, are gonna stay here, been here. Being the ones that make decisions, on the other hand, someone lives here, they have a right to make a decision too, so I don't want in any way cast that as, students or anyone shouldn't have a say, cause I think it's actually really important that they do. But, the fact that Barb brought it up was that it would save the city money. I just thought I would bring it up, and if anyone has thought about that, or thought that would ever make any sense, it might be worth something suggesting. I don't know if politically that would go over with council, but, the city's financial challenges, maybe it's just, something worth discussing.
The city council did place an amendment question on the ballot in November of 2023 to change section 14.3 to make our elections on even number of years, and it failed.
yeah.
Joe, but if the school needs to have a millage election or the city needs to have a millage election, do we really tell them they gotta wait 2 years? I mean, I don't know how that could ever work.
I could also point out from a political point of view, not necessarily East Lansing centric. It isn't a targeting of students. It ends up being a capturing of those intimately involved. So student or non-student, fewer people vote. And they're usually people that are more involved. And so a lot of places do it. It's not just a student avoidance thing. It's a
I'm not taking a position on that one way or the other. I know we voted it down, but, I missed the whole debate about it being a financial impact on the city, so I just thought I'd bring that up, that Marie did seem to have the same opinion as Barb, but it was very interesting to hear the two of their takes on different, things.
And I guess my other point is, we have to vote on this many things.
Yeah.
What?
People
Out there, that was something that, you know, I was asked to bring it up, so.
Okay, that's what we're supposed to, that's what we're here for. Lynn, were you gonna say something?
Oh, only that I think that voters have a limited attention span, and after during the last presidential election, I know that there were some ballot issues on the back of it. And I saw somebody stand 45 minutes in a voting booth, just reading and rereading and not being, they didn't come prepared necessarily to vote. The more we put in front of them, with national and then state and local elections, I think the less participation we're going to get. But I understand Barb's concern or, point that it would cost less money, but I think with respect to the local elections, having people who are more engaged is more important to us. But thank you for bringing it up, Jeff.
Anyone else? All right, we're going to move on to communication, from communications of committee members to the public hearing. We sort of, again, had this meeting agenda put out there as a public hearing for anyone who wanted to come. There's no reason to open it. I guess there's no reason to close it because no one's here.
Let's officially have to do it. We officially have to do it.
I don't know that we had, well, I'll ask you because it's,
We want to put it in the minutes. We have to close it. We can say. Open and close.
That's what I'm saying. We have to open it. And then
Okay. The public hearing is open for the proposed charter changes. Is there anyone here that wishes
I'll
to
move to
speak?
close it.
I don't think you have to motion. I think I can just say, seeing no one here to speak, I'm going to close that public hearing. And that covers 3.1 and we'll move on to 4.1. So this is the continued discussion on the changes to transparency and public records access chapter. This is when we approved this last time. The reason it's on there is where do we want to put it to make sure if we're going to do it in 8, are we doing it at 8? Are we doing it at 3? And the renumbering, I think we all have to be on the same page of what we want to do. So then our Grace knows what to do with it and we'll know what to send to council. So I think we've been talking about it to be number 3 and renumbering the chapters after that because we wanted it up front. I want to make sure the committee is in agreement with that before we close that item out.
Proposal that we make it chapter 3.
Okay, it's moved by Bill to have it chapter 3. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I will comment that I think it's important that we have in the most miscellaneous section a notice of this historical change. So we track this change.
So that's a friendly amendment.
Well, that's a,
That we
That's
move
just the FYI.
transparency to chapter 3. And we renumber the other ones, including a miscellaneous at the end, keeping the historical thing.
Yeah.
Historical action would be the right word, Grace, I think. Okay, any discussion on that?
Brief comment on the wording of 8.3B. I think while we're talking about it, we had discussed at the last meeting that the last sentence should be this section shall not create a cause of action against the city. I just want to make sure that the draft we have in front of us reflects the language that was passed at the last meeting.
It is in there?
The last sentence of 8.3B specifically was this section shall not create a cause of action against the city.
Second word is section.
Propose changing this does not to this section.
That's what we passed last time. Yeah.
Just missing that word.
And it should be shall instead of does. But yeah.
I want to make sure
Uh,
that right now we're only. The motion is not regarding the changes to this language, but it's only the renumbering.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we separate those.
Right. All right, so back to the renumbering one. Are we okay with any other discussion on that? Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay. It will be chapter 3. Motion passes unanimously. Now, Jonathan wants to,
Just looking at the minutes from the last meeting, there was a motion by myself to amend the resolution to add 8.3B to include the economic impact assessment language from version A with, in quotes, "This section shall not create a cause of action against the city," as well as making the current proposed language under 8.3 to be 8.3A. And that was the motion that carried.
Well, so we'll change that last.
Thank you.
okay, so then the minutes, go back to the minutes, Jonathan, if you would.
Yep.
On page 4 of 42. For the must to shall.
I'm on page 3 of 8 of the minutes.
3 of 8 of the minutes, okay?
Okay, sorry.
Okay. It's in the minutes. The minutes are correct. He's gonna correct that.
Thank you.
We're all set on that. Okay, so Jill, sorry, we did discuss it at every single meeting. You thought we were done last month.
I think we should. I would have missed.
Okay, so now we'll move on to 4.2. Continue discussion on the proposed preamble section. Now, Virat? But that was what was in the minutes from last time. At the last meeting, it just didn't get written that way.
Okay, so we already had the motion to approve it with that. Got it.
Okay, so, the preamble, and I'm gonna turn this over to Veronica, because Veronica, sent that out. And I'll let her speak first to that if she wants. Sent that out. We have have the language in our packet here that reflected your email as well. And
Has everyone had an opportunity to read the updated language?
I'm gonna let you move because you worked hard on this, so I'm just gonna wait for that.
Making sure.
Here.
There'll probably be more discussion, but I move that we accept the language of the preamble as stated.
Is there support?
Second.
Moved by Wilkerson Johnson, supported by Hank. Discussion?
Did we talk about its placement? Do we have to identify that as prior to, is it gonna go or? It is a preamble, so I assume that it will be inserted above 1.1.
Before chapter 1. We're all in agreement there. The index will come before that. But this would be the first thing in the charter. Let me just ask you this, Tony. When we, in the end section, it talks about the index, the title of the chapters are not part of the charter. Would the preamble would we have to amend that language, or would this be?
I think this would become part.
So we won't have to amend that other language then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just come right at the beginning.
Yes, and it is part of the charter. It won't, the title and the index and all of that isn't, but this is. Okay, yes, we,
No, not us. Would that need to be voted?
Sure, yeah.
It would be a valid preamble.
that's how he's written it as a resolution.
Yes, I did confirm that with the governor.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this?
I have a question first.
Sure.
Since it does have to go on the ballot and given the political climate that we live in, I'm wondering, the land acknowledgement is going to maybe positive or negative reaction on that, on the.
I can't hear you, sorry.
It is on, but
I have a question about the land acknowledgement, given the political climate we live in. If it would create a blowback by the voters.
I understand your point. But I just would challenge that this is something that we probably should have always done. And I understand the political climate at this time may not be as supportive of it, but I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that we should take that stand as a city.
Make a recommendation. And I think this comes to my thought, because we didn't mention that we've got the communications from the police department union. And when I read that, I'm like, we have to go forward, put forward our beliefs. If the council decides that it's a union contract issue, that's for them to sell their soul safe. Or whatever, you know, so I think that was my take on it. Should we change that? I'm like, no, let's let someone else. But I can tell you, when we did Exotica Park, that was only positively received. And I didn't hear any negative about that park renaming. So I don't know if I've heard a lot of grumbling about the land acknowledgement in meetings but this doesn't mandate it being done in a meeting. It just, you know.
can I ask you, what do you hear? What is the problem with it at the meetings?
That it's a waste of time because we do it 4 times a day if you're in 4 different meetings.
What do you do at the meetings? It's just written on the agenda?
No, they read it. And then from my point of view, I always think, what are we doing about it? Like, we're bringing this up. How many students we promised full ride scholarships to Indigenous students? How many are at Michigan State right now? Like, and this was on campus. I'm like, why don't we also roll in how many full ride scholarships we're giving to Indigenous students? Like, it just reminded me of what we're not doing. So, but that's because I'm on that side, but.
Meetings of the state.
Yeah. Yeah, just me, that's the only negative thing I've heard about it is it takes time up in meetings and it doesn't
Oh,
feel.
at Michigan State?
Yeah,
Not the city, okay.
Oh, no, no,
Okay.
because that was, and you'd be in 4 or 5 meetings a day and they'd be doing it in every meeting. So.
Okay.
But none of it was, that was a grumbling behind the scenes, none of it was against land acknowledgement, it was.
Dale?
Yeah, I was gonna say, in this case, I don't think we should be the ones to take it off unless anyone here like has an issue with the language like themselves. Just because we shouldn't take it off because we think the voters might not like it in this case.
Let them take it off.
As a process reminder, and just as a process reminder, this language, every time there's a ballot amendment, this language is posted on the wall at the polling place, and the city will craft 100 words that accurately summarize this. And so that point likely won't be in detail in the ballot question.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? Yes, Mr. Hank?
Not a land acknowledgement specifically, but,
You pull your microphone closer.
sorry, not on the land acknowledgement, but just on the preamble overall. I shared the Flint preamble last meetings in the charter pack. Here is page 13. There's 2 things about that I'd like to maybe consider trying to add something to, what we have here. And, give me 1 second just to get back to that page. There's sort of nothing in the preamble. I don't know if there's nothing, but preamble isn't very clear that, like, Flint comes right out, has preamble, and then also has a declaration of rights. And I always view like these preambles sort of, they go along with the declaration of rights, because you're saying there's individuals in the community and those individuals have rights. And then, we craft this aspirational statement. I mean, that's like, look at the preamble to the Declaration of Independence. You know, we don't always live those values, but it's kind of poetic language of, you know, endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, you know, that sort of thing. So in the Flint preamble, they have specific things listed, kind of saying that, you know, people have rights. So I'm just wondering if there's a way we can add like just a sentence or two to this preamble, which somehow makes it clear that like individuals in the community have rights and we respect their rights the fullest extent possible. In the second, and I was gonna bring this up later on the whiteboard, but in the Flint preamble, section 6 says the city shall endeavor to secure application of the principle of one person, one vote for any regional policy making body which taxes or provides any service to city residents or takes any action affecting the city's interest. That brought this up last meeting, that I think we should have something like that. I don't know if it needs to be in the preamble. I was gonna maybe suggest it goes in chapter 16 for utilities. Cause I have the Board of Water and Light specifically in mind when they're trying to remove East Lansing as a non-voting member on the board. They provide us with, I think they're the only electrical provider. I mean, unless is there another utility that provides electricity to East Lansing, so they have a monopoly. And we don't have any, I've seen the Board of Water and Light just do things that I think are, you know, they're, when you have a monopoly power, you're not, you know, you don't have the pressure to always be the greatest customer service provider. You know, you have limited leverage over any entity that has that kind of power over you. And this is a lot of power the Board of Water and Light has, but especially because they're, I mean, electricity is everything to modern day life. I don't like the fact that they're trying to remove us as a non-voting member. We discussed at a previous meeting where Board of Water and Light officials were talking about if there was you know, some sort of emergency, that they would even cut off everybody outside of the city of East Lansing from having power. They own the utility, but I mean, what are we supposed to do? So, you know, the City of Lansing Charter Commission has their preamble and it talks about inclusion and all this sort of stuff. And I frankly think there's a huge cognitive dissonance what they're saying and then what they're trying to do with the Board of Water and Light. So I'm kind of going on a tangent here a little bit, but so I think this could apply to utility providers, it'd be in section 16, but also if there are other regional bodies, I think it's important for us to collaborate regionally, and if we are involved in those, to have those organizations be inclusive and democratic in nature. So I guess what I'm bringing this up for discussion is I'd like to see this almost exact language that Flint has either put into chapter 16 as 16.5 or maybe put into the preamble too. And then you know, if we have the authority as a charter committee to send correspondence to anybody else, I think we should send a letter to the Lansing City Charter Commission about the Board of Water and Light issues specifically, and that we do not support having East Lansing residents lose non-voting seat on the board, and that we are including this in our charter because we believe all these values that we're both saying we believe in are actually important. We're actually going to live those values. And I'll wrap this up as like these preambles are beautiful, poetic, aspirational things. We don't always live up to them, but that's what they're supposed to be there for us to strive for. So it'd be nice if we actually, you know, reality matched the language. I think that's kind of what I just want to say, but to summarize, I'd like to see some sort of declaration of rights sentence or something in here. And then the second would just be this, that we have a seat at the table in any other, you know, regional body where we do, and, you know, we have a vote, in principle.
Brenda.
I really like your idea, and I think it would go well in 16.5 actually, because then it's more applicable to that exact language and what it's addressing. And the preamble in the third the last two paragraphs pretty much talks about the rights of individuals as well as all people. So, and like you said, it's a poetic, more idealistic statement that gives kind of the character of the city. But I think what you're talking about is a lot more specific to the rights of our city with municipalities in particular. So I agree. Can we still do that and put what you were describing in the Flint preamble? Could we pull that language and consider putting it in 16?
Well, this meeting was set up that we can relook at things, so.
Okay.
To me, that's not an issue for us. Lynn?
I have concerns, I would have concerns about incorporating the language contained in Flint's Declaration of Rights subsection 6 into a preamble, because I don't think we have actually thought through or talked about circumstances in which we might want to include somebody or something or another entity and acknowledge them with non-voting rights in other things that the city's doing. I think that if we would incorporate such language today, identifying it into the utilities section seems to me to be a good place to put it, because we are aware of some of the attempts by Lansing to limit our the city's participation in the BWL board. But I think on a much broader basis, the extent to which I think I'm looking at it as if the shoe's on the other foot, and we would want to include somebody with not rights, and all of a sudden it becomes a problem. I don't want us to shut the door, foreclose the possibilities of that. So were we to do this, I think that Jeff's idea about putting into chapter 16 might be a good spot.
I'm gonna say, and then I'll call you again, Jeff. I agree. I think that the preamble, I disagree with you a little bit on what you want specific, when you want specifics. I like the general thing, the general tone of the city, everything, because we get into more specifics in each of the chapters. And I feel like this is when you read this really tells us, I mean, I think it was great we did it at the end of our work, because it summarizes what we all valued in this charter as we had discussions throughout the 10 months. And so I wouldn't be supportive of putting it there, but I also think if it's in the utilities, another reason why not to put something like that that's sort of vague about we endeavored to do this on anything. We've got the cable. Is a cable? Our cable companies, are they going to be called utilities in some way, because nobody can live without them now in some ways to function in society? And then we also have our transportation system, which is CATA. And we as a city have worked to get people in those places when we can. And for us to dictate that we want to do it, it doesn't have any meat if they don't want us there. We keep trying, but it doesn't say that we have to do it according to our charter. And if we don't do it, what does that mean? We just failed? And I don't think we want a charter where we're trying to do something and we can't do it. I'd rather have us aspire to do it, and I'd rather have that be something more that is a council edict, or not edict, but a council goal and strategy and strategic plan. And as far as going in chapter 16, I don't have any problem if we want to try to do something there under utilities, because at some point in time, some might question whether our cable system is a utility, because we're already allowing different cable systems to put their wires in our community. And we're not on any of those boards. And maybe we should be, but we're not. So your broad thing from Flint could fit there, and we could apply it to other things too, if council chose to put an effort towards that. So
I'll separate the two issues. So the utility, the section 6 in Flint, it does just say, we shall endeavor to secure. So it doesn't mean that we couldn't, to Lynn's point, that if we want to act, if there's something we tax somebody or somehow provide services to some other municipality and we don't want to give them the vote, doesn't mean we wouldn't have to. I don't know what that would be, but I guess there probably could be something. So I have no problem going to 16. I think that's what I originally thought would be appropriate. The only thing would be just, are the things that aren't utilities that are regional, like, CATA you just brought up, or I don't know, it could be something else regional. That's so we put in utilities, is that somehow limited? I think if you just copied I think Flint's language is actually perfect for it. So utilities is a good spot for it, but it seems like it could be more broad than utilities. The other piece, what I was asking was to include some language for a declaration of rights in section 1 of Flint's, preamble. I like the first 2 sentences. They're simple. We sort of already say it. Disregard the fact that they say the equal rights of men and women. I think we would just say the equal rights of persons, but if we could add the first 2 sentences, maybe this would be a friendly amendment I would make if people are interested. The first 2 sentences of Flint's preamble, we would read something like, the people of the city of East Lansing have in this charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights and the equal rights of, we'll say, all persons. They have determined to promote social progress and to guarantee that city government serves the citizenry. And I think it's sort of, good enough. So we at least say something about rights in here, because I don't think the word rights or freedom or liberty or any of that appears in the preamble. And I would just suggest putting that after the first sentence of the current preamble, adding, 1 sentence or 2, or combining those somehow. If that was, not of objectionable to anybody, I'd move for that as a friendly amendment.
Well, first of all, can you state that, and then we have to have, agreement to add it or not? If you want to amend.
Can we discuss it first? I mean, I can move for it too. I didn't know if I wanted to discuss it. Buddy. Sure.
I think it's better because you have a lot of
Sure.
language, so we know
Sure.
what we're voting on.
Okay, I would move to add, to the first paragraph of the preamble, the language, the people of the city of East Lansing have in this charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights and in the equal rights of all persons. They have determined to promote social progress and to guarantee that city government serves the citizenry. And that would go in the first paragraph after the first existing sentence of the preamble.
I support that.
A discussion.
Yeah, I would question the use of the term citizenry. Given the political climate that we live in, we have a lot of people here who are not citizens, and I would ask that we change that to serves the residents. If they're living in the city, then that's fine. But, requiring citizenship I think it's, here it's very general and I understand it, but I don't think a lot of people will understand it that way.
Point well taken. What if we said serve, since it says the people of the city of East Lansing, what if we just said serves the people?
People are the residents. I mean, basically, we're talking about the residents.
I would prefer to be broader than the residents. We have a lot of people.
Okay.
We're in a community here, we're in a big metropolitan area, and the city should work to encompass more than just the people who live within the city.
So what's the word?
I think Jeff recommended just the people, and I think that.
You want me to restate the motion?
Please.
So I move that we add, the people of the city of East Lansing have in this charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights and the equal rights of all persons. They have determined to promote social progress to guarantee that city government serves the people. That would be added to the first paragraph of the preamble as the second sentence after the only existing sentence in that first paragraph.
That's people with a capital P, right?
Yes, and not to get sidetracked here, but we may typically, a lot of times I think isn't Constitution typically capitalized in the preamble?
I picked up on that too, I think.
I have some notes on capitalization too. But
Jeff, just so I'm clear, did you say we the people again, given that it starts with we the people of the city of East Lansing? You're not suggesting we?
I didn't say we the people, and it sort of is a little redundant there.
Yeah.
I think we just said the people. If there's a shorter way to say that, I'm happy to draw that motion and restate it.
Well, it serves all.
Okay, I see.
Could we maybe move that to the third paragraph? Because the first paragraph, it seems to me, we talk about the charter is under the Home Rule Act. The second paragraph is the land acknowledgements. The third paragraph really seems to me to be the expression of our hopes and goals and what we aspire to. And it seems to me that it would flow better in that paragraph, that if we said we affirm our city's commitment to being a welcoming, safe, and equitable place for all to live, work, visit, the city functions when we foster a shared culture, et cetera. And then the people of the city of East Lansing reaffirm their faith in fundamental human rights and in the equal rights of all persons. We determine to promote social progress and guarantee that city government serves the people. That seems to me that that flows as a more broader assessment as to what our aspirations are here in that topic. It seems to fit
It
better
does seem to
there
fit
to
that.
me.
That third paragraph,
In the third paragraph, Jeff.
the spirit of that paragraph, yes.
Okay, I kind of like it in the first, but, I do want to reword this. Should I withdraw the motion?
With
Yeah, we
permission
just-
of the second,
Restate it.
with permission of the second.
Someone second?
I really like your idea of Liz putting it in the third paragraph.
Okay. You would, apparently you have to approve.
Well, I don't know what you want. Are you gonna put a whole new motion up? And, or are you just gonna amend some wording in this? If you're gonna amend some wording in this, that can be a friendly amendment.
I was gonna just change the words to shorten it, but then if people wanted the third, does that require? Are you saying that requires something different?
Well, I would just say you would accept that in the third paragraph.
Yeah,
That's a
fine.
friendly amendment.
Sure.
So now we're talking about putting it in the third paragraph after the sentences that are there, and you have right now. Let me just make clear. Is it anytime we have people, we have people capitalized? You kind of, everybody kind of threw that out, the attorneys, so I just want to make sure.
No, I think it's specific. I think when we say the people of the city of East Lansing, that's a lowercase p. But I think when we talk about the government serving the people, that's a capital P.
I hear what you guys are saying about the idea that this is the dramatic intro. Whereas the pursuant to the charter adopted, that's kind of legalese language. Not probably particularly interesting to Joan Q. Public, but it is, like the. So that's something to think about. That should be in here, but maybe that isn't the lead. So if I might just stop there if I was reading this, you're like, oh yeah, it's just the, kind of the official wording that they're required to stipulate legalese versus being hit between the eyes with the Declaration of Rights, basically.
Are you saying you want the Declaration of Rights up?
I'm throwing out that there might be a reason that, I
That's
think.
why I originally put it that way.
So, no, and I'm saying that I totally hear what we're saying about we've got zones of action, the land acknowledgement, the legal description of the origin of the charter.
Yeah, so I just want to say, because I think it was my turn to talk for a second here, because I was trying to restate this. The reason the Declaration of Rights was up top, because that's where we're referencing the Constitution, these sort of things, where the rights come from, or where we say, or at least acknowledge. So I just wanted to change the language. Originally, I just wanted to change the language, and now I think to cut this shorter is that we would just say, we reaffirm our faith in fundamental human rights and in the equal rights of all people. We are determined to promote social progress and to guarantee the city government serves the people. Then we get rid of the whole, like, we the people and some of this extra language. And it
Do
flows
the
shorter.
second sentence again.
We are determined to promote social progress and to guarantee that city government serves the people. We, the people.
I don't, but so you're saying if the first line, you put it in there. Is that what you're
If it was in the first line, because we're already saying we the people before that, instead of saying we the people or the people of the city of East Lansing, it's
We
just
are
redundant.
determined to promote
To
social
just then
progress.
say, after community, we just say we.
Serves the people.
Shortest way to say it.
But I'm saying, what if we moved it up above before?
Oh, you're saying above it.
Is that what you were talking about?
No, I was just saying the second sentence initially, that was.
Oh, oh, okay.
Okay, so how about you've? Okay,
Why don't we just add it as a second paragraph and
Put it with that group, with that.
have it be a second paragraph,
declaration.
have 5 paragraphs, that's the second.
I-
Instead of figuring out which part we're gonna add it to.
You don't think that's overly wordy
I don't,
to add another paragraph?
I
Okay.
don't. But that would be,
I'm okay with that.
In that sense, by getting it up to the top, so it's, and grouping it with the. To do that, to say walk grounds for the charter.
that's right.
Yeah. And that, I love, Jonathan just mentioned something that is important. We need to keep the land acknowledgement as close to the beginning as possible. And by putting a second paragraph there, we drop it down even further.
What's that based on?
On the, I guess the process by which we began to do this in the first place nationally.
What's the wording?
We were asked,
It was,
the
the person was
city,
here last time and
yeah.
spoke to you after the meeting.
The Director of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion for the city of East Lansing told me that, but also the city manager affirmed what she was saying as well. That as we construct this, we would need to keep the land acknowledgement closer to the beginning.
Closer to and one more paragraph down, it doesn't seem
I,
like that's
I
the.
think that
Okay.
I wouldn't,
so how about if we agree on the wording first, let's make a motion, you made the motion to change the wording to read, let me see if I have this right. We reaffirm our faith, we the people of the city of East Lansing, affirm our faith affirm our faith in fundamental human rights and in the equal rights of all people.
Diana's a little different because, and the reason I shortened it, because it would fit in a certain area to we, so I think you just said we the people of the city of East Lansing. I don't think we need that. Again, so it's just redundant.
All right, so let's do it this way so that it's very clean. Your language being proposed to be in the first paragraph as the sentence, and you're gonna read it again. That'll be the motion. I'll have you make that motion with the second. And then if that passes, then we're done with it. If people feel they don't want it there, then they vote it down and they make another motion using that language and putting it someplace else. That way we have a nice flow of how the decision was made.
And I'm fine with motioning to put this somewhere else if there's some consensus on it. It's kind of hard to tell from the group.
Okay, well, that's,
We can take a quick straw poll as to where we prefer to have it. I think that might focus the conversation.
Sure.
So I think that the conversation seems to be whether to have it as a new, I think where we landed is to have it as either a new added second paragraph or to add it to the end of the current third paragraph.
Or the first.
or add
Or into the
a.
first paragraph. So I think if we can focus in on which one of those 3 options we prefer, and maybe we can just all go around and say what we individually prefer, and that might help us. I personally would prefer to add it to the third paragraph.
let's go with, start with Dale.
Sorry,
Third paragraph.
third paragraph for me.
Third,
I don't really have.
third,
First to think too.
First.
All right, well, let's make a motion. I'll make the motion then and we can vote. I'm not sure what to make of that, I guess. Okay, I would move to add the language. We reaffirm our faith in fundamental human rights, and I'm sorry. We reaffirm our faith in fundamental human rights and in the equal rights of all people. We are determined to promote social progress and to guarantee the city government serves the people. And that language would go in the first paragraph of the preamble as the second sentence. I'm just making the motion. People can vote.
Hey, can you read that?
Okay. Yep.
Just that line.
Second. We reaffirm our faith, fundamental human rights, and the equal rights of all people. We are determined to promote social progress and to guarantee the city government serves the people.
Okay, does everyone want to understand that? Discussion more on that?
I would make a motion to amend the language to, or not to amend the language, but to amend the placement of the language to the end of the current third paragraph. of the
Friendly amendment to the,
No, he's making it as an amendment to the motion.
Yes, right.
friendly amendment.
I don't think it's friendly. I
Oh,
don't think
really?
it's-
I'll second that. Discussion on the third putting it in the third paragraph.
Just to be clear from my position, I'm happy with it in either place, but I think it fits better in the third, so that's why I'm gonna be voting yes on my amendment here.
Okay, so, let's take a roll call vote on that, Grace, okay? On the the amendment to the main motion, which is to place it in the third paragraph.
Foreman,
Yes.
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 Yes,
Martinez.
Oh.
Hank. Weil.
4-3. That motion, that amendment to the main motion passes. So now we're back to this language that you had in there, to be put into the third paragraph, the end of the third paragraph. Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. So now we have, now we have back to the preamble that has been amended. And, any more discussion on that?
I have a few minor changes. It's mostly capitalization. I think this should be a friendly amendment with this motion. That Constitution should be capitalized in the first sentence,
Yes.
and then in the third paragraph, wherever we talk about our city, city should be capitalized as well.
Agreed.
I have one also, shouldn't people in the first line of the preamble be capitalized?
Um,
You happen to know offhand, Tony, if the Constitution has "we the people"?
It is capitalized in the
Yeah.
I think so. When you see that first
Yeah.
line is always there. So we capitalize the people there. Okay,
I made my prior motion, I guess I intended the people to also be capitalized because it's the same concept.
yeah, that was in your, that motion, at least I have it capitalized. Okay, we ready to vote on that? Okay, we're voting on the preamble that's been amended to be placed with the new language in the third paragraph of the preamble. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We now have our preamble.
Madam Chair, can I ask a question?
You sure can, Mr.
Thank you. As I look at this, first paragraph begins with "we the people." Then the second paragraph begins with "we," meaning the people. The third paragraph begins, "The city of East Lansing affirms." Shouldn't that be "we affirm"? I'm just curious as to why we use that phrasing.
Redundant, you're saying? We could,
No, I'm saying that it isn't the city of East Lansing. It is the people who are voting on this charter who are affirming the city's commitment to the things that we've mentioned there. So
Could I suggest, since we voted on the preamble and you didn't bring it up when we we're there, so now we have a voting thing. When it comes to you at council, you can edit it then?
I just want to, this particular reason why that paragraph was different.
If you want to do that, okay.
I would move that we change, modify the language in the third paragraph that starts with the city of East Lansing. To change that to the word "we." And then change the word "affirms," plural to just "affirm."
we affirm.
I would second that.
Okay. So we have a motion to change some wording on our pre-approved preamble that was amended and placed with new language in the third paragraph. Anything else can, and you're at the table, so you can talk anytime, Mr. Meadows. Okay, anything else on this? Think hard. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Okay,
Oh, am I still allowed to bring something up then?
hopefully not in the preamble.
Well, just want to ask a question about the final paragraph, which reads, in adopting this charter, we dedicate ourselves, which is a personal commitment. When it is, shouldn't it be, we dedicate our city to transparency, et cetera. So that was my question.
I think when you think of the city as being made up of the people, saying that we dedicate ourselves is the same as saying we dedicate the city. So I don't think that that's a necessary change.
We've already added it.
We've already said we are the people of the city of East Lansing, and we're saying we.
I said that.
Anything else?
Yeah, Mark.
If we're doing that, can I maybe suggest a wordsmith that we are dedicated to transparency that sort of tracks the same we that we go through? We are dedicated to transparency, which affirms the reference to us as the city.
Okay, with that, Dr. Johnson.
That's fine.
Change the language, we dedicate ourselves to, we are dedicated. In the fourth paragraph of the preamble.
Anybody have anything else?
I'll second the motion.
You're catching all this, right, Grace? Okay. All right, so it's been moved by Hank and supported by Foreman, to change in the fourth paragraph now to say, in adopting this charter, we are dedicated to transparency, accountability, so forth. Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, Mr. Meadows, did you have anything else? Okay.
Looks like there's a typo at the end of this. It's like a comma, not a period, just after the word society. That would probably get catch later, but.
My eyes are not that good. Just make sure that that's correct. Yeah. Okay. All right, that gets us past the preamble, which was our 4.2. So now, in renumbering the agenda, we have 4.3, which is chapter 17. So this is the library chapter that we had talked about, and we had gotten a email. I had gotten an email on the 24th, and just as a clarification, at that last meeting, seemed like the emails were coming late and back and forth. I did talk with a member of the library board, and she said that Mr. King had gotten a member of the one of the trustees was supposed to do the language and get it to Mr. King, and so that was last minute, and there was just some things going back and forth that weren't as timely as what we thought they were supposed to be coming. So now she just puts in here where we have at the end of 17.4, I believe it is, and she, just make sure some. So, the board shall also hire a library director. The library director serves at the discretion of the Board of Trustees, is what we had agreed to. And then we amended the last sentence last time, the employees of the library serve at the discretion of the library director to the extent permissible under any collective bargaining agreement. That was what we approved. That's what's in the minutes. And that was the latest 17.4. And I don't know that we have a copy of that Did you get that?
Yeah, that's the last.
Oh, it's in the packet.
So the fact.
Okay, so it's the last one in our packet that was of the whole group here. So Polly, who's, I believe is one of the trustees and she's the attorney and she was supposed to give some language. She has suggested that, simply stating that the authorities and responsibilities are set forth in the board bylaws. And she suggested that we put that. Now,
In place of the Serbs.
at the discretion of the Board of Trustees. But the bylaws of the library say they hire, and the job responsibilities are there. This is now getting, again, more specific, I think, than what we, in the charter, they have their authority, and I don't know that this, from me reading it, it doesn't, it's sort of redundant because it's in their bylaws, so why do we have to put it in our charter that it's in their bylaws?
Well, because isn't she, what that would mean is whatever's in the bylaws would be what goes. So if they wanted to, I don't know why they want to make that change around the director, but if they did want to make some sort of change around the director now reporting to city manager or something, they could do that, right? Is that, maybe that's the thought that it defaults to something that they control and could change?
But if the library director serves at the discretion of the board of trustees of the library, then what the board says goes. So if the board of trustees changes their,
I hear that.
so I think we want to keep it as general as possible, which we've already done, so as to not conflict with anything that the library board might choose to do in the future.
Well, that,
And
if
so
we
I-
went by their bylaws, then that would be exactly doing that. And I'm just proposing that that was perhaps the thought behind her change, which would mean that they could do whatever they wanted with the bylaws and that role. Whereas this does require them to have the director serve at their behest. See what I'm saying? They could change their bylaws tomorrow and say that we no longer, the director does no longer serves at our behest if they wanted to do that.
I don't think they can,
Why couldn't they?
because you can't give up your responsibility to somebody else unless the other person agrees.
Well, maybe they agree. I'm just using this. as
No, but-
if the charter 100% refers to their bylaws, then that means we're not stepping on any of their toes, not dictating anything. It's 100% under their auspice with the bylaws, but do we think she brought it up? Do we not, we don't know why, right?
And I mean, that's the other thing I was gonna say. And we've had this conversation about the library board now at multiple meetings. We thought we were gonna have a representative from the library at the last meeting, if I'm correct, Diane, and that didn't come to pass. We passed this ordinance, we passed this charter change or, charter amendment proposal at our last meeting. I think we should stick with what we've already done. This is gonna become a theme of what I say over the next half hour. But I think we've made our determination. I don't think that this is a worthwhile change to go back and look at what we've already done. So I would be opposed to reworking what we've already done when respectfully people have had the opportunity to come talk to us before we made our determination.
Madam Chair.
City council.
Can I add one thing? The library director has resigned, as you, I don't know if Diane knew that, but everybody else was aware of that. And it was because of a conflict between the board and the library director relating to his calling of a police to the library to suppress a problem that had occurred at the library. So that this letter comes at this moment in time is a little bit of a surprise to me, but this basically would provide the library to say that the director is bound by the bylaws of the library because he was accused of violating those bylaws during this confrontation. And so I think the fact that you have already reviewed all this and that this language I think is very appropriate for the changes that were made. That this new suggestion has another purpose rather than to improve these.
Okay. So if we want to include some language in here, Tony, if you were to put this in there, where would you see that would fit? Given the language that we have now currently in our,
And I think we'd have to just strike the last two sentences that we added and replace them with that language regarding the bylaws.
Jill? It should be as easy as the sentence, the director serves at the discretion of the board of trustees. The library director serves in accordance with the board of trustees bylaws. That does what she wants. And I don't think it changes the theme of what we're doing.
But then who controls the hiring? Under the charter, as I understand it, the board hires the library director. And the charter then doesn't provide our language originally said that the director serves at the discretion of the board. So basically the board has the power to hire and fire the library director. If we remove that language, then who has how do we fire or terminate a library
Well, you have to
director?
look at their bylaws.
And I think from my perspective, I think it behooves us. Again, I understood that the library director also stepped down today as well before I came here. But before that, I think we talked about the concerns we had about getting really specific about the language in this powers and duty of the board, because that had been before us, I think, in the last two meetings. And we decided that we were better off having leaving that to the bylaws of the library, because if they wanted to add additional responsibilities or redesignate responsibilities, that was really within the library and its management to do that. So I think that we're better off there. I'm wondering if, though, it wouldn't help the situation going forward to alleviate any potential conflicts in adopting some sort of language like we have in chapter 7 regarding that's governs the relationship between the city council and the city manager, where the city council can't micromanage the city manager's job on a day-to-day basis. And maybe we could incorporate similar language for the library board, that they have bylaws and they're designating that to the city manager, but they can't interfere with his actual day-to-day operation of the library. It might be really
I totally agree. I agree that in this scenario, that something like that would have been.
But I think it's helpful then to designate it for the board instead of trying to second guess every decision that the library director is having to make. That we look at this, I think the language that is in 7.1E, that we could use Jeff's thing about adopting preamble language from other cities. Maybe we could just borrow from our own chapter 7 and say, except as otherwise required, neither the library board of trustees nor any of its members shall in any manner interfere with the library director in the exercising of his or her judgment in the appointment or assignment of administrative officers and employees. And neither the board nor any member thereof shall give orders to any of the subordinates of the library director. And then that makes sure that the board functions as a board and the library director functions as a library director. And that's what might might be a little bit more appropriate than having the board say, oh, well, we're gonna have the director, but we're also going to tell him or her exactly what kinds of things, responsibilities they have, managing the facilities, preparing the budget and things. That's just, to me, that's part and parcel of being a library director. We shouldn't have to spell that out, and it shouldn't put the board in conflict with the library director.
Well, that's pretty complex to be putting in here. It's like a second oversight to me of the library director in here. And truly, 5 people have the responsibility of overseeing the library director, and they put the roles and responsibilities in their he put it for the city people in their letter of engagement. They put it in the contract. What exactly are those roles and responsibilities? Or they also have some in the bylaws. And so for us to have some, like a third area for them to have to, to meet, the whole idea of having the library not report to the city manager, library director not report to the city manager, to be separate, was to protect the library and not to be a political place. So I'm kind of with Jonathan on this. We left it like this, and again, Mark is listening to all of this. He's a liaison to us. Obviously, Carrie Eversol Singh is the other person that's a liaison on council to the library, and they have Polly's information. And I'm sure they're going to have discussions of what's going on. I'm more inclined to just have it stand the way it is, just because it's putting the power within that group. And without talking about specifics of this, they have to deal with the situation. It doesn't go back to the charter to tell them what to do. It goes back to their bylaws and the job responsibilities. And if he isn't doing or she isn't doing them, and they feel that way and they feel they can terminate the person, they can terminate it. If the person resigns, that's their right too. So that's where I'm at. Anybody else? Dale?
Yeah, I agree with not making amendments to the language at this time.
All right. Well, unless someone has a motion to put language here, we'll leave this as it is. And I will respond to Polly and tell her what options she has, and that Mark was here as a member of council too. And I'll copy you all on it. Okay, moving on to chapter 4.9, based on the communication that we received from the I want to get their title right. City labor program. Was there anything that we would like to change? Or, and I would look to you, Mr. Foreman, because you are the person that was very specific in this language.
Yeah, if I could lead off here. So I had an opportunity to look over the letter. I'm just gonna note, this is something where they're threatening legal action in a labor sense. I think we have to be careful about what we say here. But I just want to start off by noting that we discussed chapter or section 4.9 of the charter at our November 7th meeting. We continued conversation at our November 21st meeting of 2024. We had a proposed change to that, a proposed resolution at our December 5th meeting and our January 9th meeting. The current language was, I believe, first discussed in a resolution change at the January 23rd meeting. And then it was ultimately passed based on our notes here at the February 6th meeting. The language here isn't a surprise. So I find that the timing of the letter from the union head here a little odd, considering it's been over 4 months since we passed it, and that we're now approaching our last meeting. Beyond that, the letter here makes some, I think, interesting allegations are, saying, I'll note we're a volunteer committee. We are not making any changes to the charter. We are recommending changes to be voted on by the people of the city of East Lansing. I'm not a labor lawyer, but I would be surprised if if the populace of the city of East Lansing could commit an unfair labor practice against any union. And beyond that, and I think most importantly, for the purposes of what this letter is alleging this committee has done wrong, we did not change the way any employees are treated under the city charter. The change that we have recommended for section 4.9 of the charter only modifies potential penalties as it relates to administrative officers, which is only defined as in the city charter as the chief of police, who I do not believe is a member of any unions supported or any unions represented by the capital city labor program. So to the extent they're saying that we have changed, that we are recommending any changes to any obligations of city employees, I believe that is just patently false. I would be extremely opposed to making any changes here. I think the changes that we are recommending even out, they make level employees and officers, whereas before officers of the city were treated less harshly than employees. I would be surprised if a union were opposed to their employees being treated the same as their supervisors. So I would leave it there. I think we should not make any changes to the proposed language here.
Just as an issue, I reviewed the letter and just as an issue of statutory construction, to the extent that you can read statutes to be harmonious, that's how you construe them. And this doesn't say that you wouldn't go through any process, that you would preempt any collective bargaining agreement. And the backstop to that is if you read them to be in conflict, the state law would control, which is PIRA. And so I don't find any merit to the letter. I did, in case the council so desired, I did prepare an alternative amendment that added to the final sentence so that it would read, failure on the part of any officer or employee of the city to obey the subpoena or to produce books, papers, or other evidence pursuant to the subpoena, adding to the extent required under any applicable collective bargaining agreement shall constitute a misdemeanor. I don't think it's necessary, but that would be the alternative I would propose if you were interested in amending.
And I would be, sorry, Pam, if you don't mind, I just want to respond quickly. I would be opposed to doing that because with respect to, I'm a member of a union. I want to make that clear. With respect to the union, that's something they can bargain away. This has been.
You can answer my question. What is the wording of the contract that this conflicts with?
That's a great question, which is not provided in this letter.
I know, and that's why if you're in that union and we don't have.
I'm not in this union. I'm in.
No, but I know, but I'm just saying that is, where is the where's the conflict in the contract?
Understood. And, my point is this language has been in the charter since the charter was passed, as far as I can tell. If the union wants to make it so that their employees are not subject to the consequences laid out in the charter for refusing to follow lawful orders as the police, then I think that it's fair for them to try to bargain that away in their negotiations with the city. I don't think the city has any obligation, and the voters of the city have any obligation to do it for them.
Have you spoken with this group or the director or council or anything, or is anyone else?
I have not. I didn't really find it necessary based upon the substance of the letter.
It just came out of the blue, like Jonathan said, it's sort of odd. Someone. So what is?
Where did it come from? Any speculation?
At a high level, the union has been monitoring some changes in the BIPOC ordinance. And so that may have piqued their awareness of what else is going on. That's speculation, but That's why they're watching everything.
And just as one of the other attorneys that happened to be on this committee, I reviewed the language that has been challenged in this, and I fully agree with Jonathan. We did not change any language that would increase any penalties on the employees. In fact, the previous language before our amendment says if the failure is on the part of an employee, it shall constitute a misdemeanor. It still would, our proposed language still holds that as a misdemeanor. All we do is include the fact that an officer can also now be charged with a misdemeanor rather than just misconduct in office. So I think that the executive director of the Capital City Labor Program, who's at least signed this letter, I don't know who drafted it, perhaps for his signature. I think that they misinterpret the proposed changes that we have made to the charter language. We're doing it more to be more inclusive, not less inclusive, and certainly not to alter any responsibilities on behalf of the employees.
And it should be made clear because of it, this is in another section that employees are defined in our charter as any employee of the city of East Lansing who is not an officer of the city of East Lansing. And the only officer who is employed by the police department is, or who is an employee of the police department is the chief of police. So this, and when we reference officer in this section, we do not mean police officers. We mean officers of the city. So I just think that should be made clear in case anyone's watching.
So any motion to change anything coming forward? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4.5, which is continued discussion on the whiteboard list. And so Grace sent one out, but I know that we added request at the bottom, the last one that should have request for a timely amendment, request ordinance have timely response for amendments. I guess I might have that mixed up a little bit, but we talked about that, and we talked about having an ordinance for timely amendment to the charter and ordinances, and an ordinance for misconduct in office were the two things that we were going to that are on this whiteboard list. So I'm going to start at the top. So I just wanted to add that to the bottom, and then keep in mind Mr. Hank's comment about chapter 16. So ranked choice voting charter amendment language should be reviewed by committee. We now have that in this packet on 3.2. Has it been drafted? I don't see that here. Is it on the whiteboard list? You're not on the whiteboard. These are all resolutions. We didn't see. Charter. Yes.
All of the things printed in front of you are approved resolutions only. So if it hasn't been approved, it wasn't printed yet.
So we were still waiting to see where that was going to be placed from the ballot, the ranked choice voting charter amendment.
Yeah, I had referenced
3.2, it goes in there, but we don't have a copy of 3.2.
what it will
Look
look
like.
like,
Mhm.
what people adopted 2 years ago. Let me pull it up.
So I think our goal here, Tony, is that when we put all these things forward, it will include that current language, because people haven't seen that in the charter before. When we printed out the charter, it wasn't in the charter. And so our community wouldn't know that that has been part of our charter now.
Yeah, it's a 3.1A. Yeah, and that's just it's a clerical update that needs to be done. I was working with the clerk to provide her the Word document. We provided updated Word documents so that she can insert this. But it is in the charter. It's not.
Okay. Okay, so Grace, for that, we can say we're waiting on the clerk to send us the language that was approved in the place where it will be in the charter. The precinct locations, that came up, our church is appropriate. Do we want to discuss that here? That was yours, Pam.
Yeah. It's.
So I just sent the charter language or the ballot language that was approved to Grace, so you can just forward it directly to the members.
So Pam, did you want?
That's fine.
Okay. Documents to be available are, okay.
Do we wanna just write a letter to the city council saying they may want to consider making a change in that area?
Somebody else think that makes sense? I tried to bring it up with the school remodeling, and that was apparently crazy.
Okay, so nobody else even thinks it, okay,
I mean, there's so few options if we don't use schools, so.
not schools, churches.
No, I know, but where would we move it if we don't?
Okay, all right.
I appreciate you following that.
Oh, yeah.
Documents to be available, we have those now in our transparency chapter, which is now chapter 3. The preamble, we've got that. Ballot language, gender neutral. You have that language that we've, that resolution that was proposed, so we have that. Misconduct in office, we just have kind of discussed all that. Proposal 1, charter amendment placement.
Oh, jeez.
While he's working on that, the definition of an officer, administrative officer and elected, we've discussed that. We're pretty clear on that, everybody in the charter. Board of Water and Light member, now this is our chapter 16. Do we need to go into chapter 16 and add that language or?
Thank you for that. So, sitting here thinking about this, I think this goes better as 20.5 in miscellaneous because it deals more than utilities. And,
I want to make a motion on this, but I want to certainly hear from everybody.
I like the Flint language, I think it's pretty good, but I mean, certainly, city shall endeavor to secure application of principle. One person, one vote for any regional policy-making body which taxes and provide any service to city residents or take any action affecting the city's interests. Open to changing that, if someone has improved upon it. Lynn said earlier, I don't think it applies us to do anything, is that, endeavor to secure, and that's kind of wishy-washy, but it is important principle. And I really think this Board of Water and Light thing is,
My concern would be if it's not in 16, will it be associated with the Board of Water and Light issue? And I'd almost like to see more things under 16. Like Diana pointed out, now we do have competition with internet services, but there's still public use lines, and maybe there'll be a different decision on cell towers or something in the future or something. So I think that there may be more, maybe we start our own, electric service or something. So I think the expansion of the definition of utilities would put it where people would expect to see that.
and I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you just because certain things aren't utilities, like ad is not ever gonna be a utility.
What's with the franchises though? It's a franchise. Isn't it utilities or franchises?
There's different chapters to each of those, that for sure 16 is utilities and 15 or something franchises. If it goes miscellaneous, it's just broad, it's a catch-all, I thought, maybe it's just saw jail nod in her head.
I was gonna make that suggestion that we,
Better go miscellaneous.
who knows what kind of regional sharing there'll be of some other kind
Fire
of service
department in the future.
that are complete, IT services or some other thing that has nothing to do with utilities, so.
Okay, so we amended chapter 20.4 because we had the addition of the savings clause. Based on the changes with this charter and if anything happened before it. So do we want to propose that would be 20 point? We have also talked about, we don't have it in here, but the sections removed, that's what Pam was talking about earlier, that we enumerate that, the historical thing that, so I guess the savings clause is 20.4. Do we do 20.5? Is, recognizing that chapter 8 was removed and, chapter 9 is also removed, and we renumber them and put the historical piece in there, that chapter 8 used to be this, chapter 9 used to be this. We've renumbered and added an additional chapter, placed it.
Didn't we discuss just having that as like an index at the end of the charter?
That would be.
It doesn't need to be like a section of the charter. That's also gonna be regularly updated. It wouldn't need to be voted on or anything. I think if you make it a section, then
So you don't want to ever say anything about chapter 8 and 9, what happened with those?
I think you would have just be like an index, just like you have table of contents at the end.
That's not required, that could be leaved off at any time. And it's not considered part of the charter, which I hear what you're saying, and I, if it's there, but then what does it hurt to have a changes tracking in the miscellaneous
Not
section?
arguing against it, I just think that's a huge section and it might just be easier to have it as an index.
It's different, but that's my concern, that this is what you're moving a real action, whereas miscellaneous, it's full of things like that, so that I can see why that might be an issue. It would be lost with renumbering, which is.
So, Tony, what will happen if when we put this on the ballot and we're changing chapter 5? Let's just say we have an amendment to chapter 4 and chapter 5, and we've put something in at 3, and now chapter 4 is actually gonna be chapter 5. It's the current chapter that's in the thing, in the charter, is what we put on the ballot.
The renumbering, it's unfortunate, but I told you guys they went to the AG, they did confirm we do have to do that. So it would be, I think, too complex to have that particular question while also having other questions on that particular ballot, because it is going to be really quite confusing to change the chapter and then say, and also if you want to amend chapter 4, which is chapter 4, if you voted yes on the previous one.
Okay.
So we may have to just leave that on and one election only have the issue of changing the numbers of the ballot.
The numbers.
The numbers.
The charters, of the chapters.
Yeah.
So then when you're proposing the transparency chapter, which we've always talked about as 3, would we just say we would add this to the charter? And we wouldn't say where we would add it?
Yeah, typically your ballot language is not going to be that specific. It'll reference it as an amendment to the charter, but not specifically.
Everyone good with that?
Everything's voted on, and then we bring one more ballot back saying, we gotta renumber it all.
It seems
That's the
like,
theory.
it seems like the renumbering and the gender neutral wording can be a general sort of housekeeping section. That wouldn't be overwhelming if it was put, administrative housekeeping included capturing the history of all changes.
Especially since any of our amendments are gender neutral, so we won't have to.
Right, the new ones.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so then we're okay with that. Back to proposal 1, where did you find that was going to be 2 point?
It's 2.3% to the language proposed by in the initiative.
Okay, so you're going to send that to us too, so we have that, what it's going to look like to. Okay, right. Okay, so we're back to the Board of Water and Light. Do we want that language, the Flint language in the miscellaneous or not?
I make a motion, Diane.
I would move that we add, section 20.5 to the city charter. This reads, the city shall endeavor to secure application of principle, one person, one vote for any regional policy making body, acts as it provides any service to city residents or take any action affecting the city's interests.
I support,
Waiting to support it.
Okay. Oh, this is chapter 20 and miscellaneous. All right, it's been moved by Mr. Hankins, supported by, I'm just gonna call that Ruben. So, discussion.
You know, that language.
Paragraph 6 of the Flint preamble.
I think he emailed that to you
It's in
at, on
page
page 12
13 of our packet.
at
also.
8:52, which I thought we were meeting, or right after the meeting. I'm thinking your email.
These are in the meeting. That's page 13 of the packet too.
He's got it.
I got
He's
it.
got it. Okay, any more discussion on that?
Not gonna have that weird colon that they have in there.
No colon.
Just a question, Jeff, I have on my notes that 20.4 was the savings clause and then 20.5 were the, identified the sections that were going to be removed. So is this going to be 20.6? Is that what we're?
I would suggest that section removed become 20.6 if that could be a friendly amendment to Jeff's motion.
We didn't enact 20.5 already, did we?
I didn't think there was a vote on that one.
No, there hasn't been one. It's just we talked about, whether, what we were gonna do with it, but we can amend that and put that in here next.
I didn't know. I just wanted to.
Looks like, okay.
Well, I actually like the way if we put that in there, that covers my thing that we got rid of our magistrate and all of that, a historical piece of our court. And it's in the miscellaneous, which doesn't really matter. It's to the charter. But will this language matter? Is the miscellaneous is part of the charter? It's just, yeah. So, okay, sorry. I was getting mixed up with the titles again. All right, so right now we have just motion and supported by Ruben.
Mark, do you have any comments on it? Are you also?
I like this language. The city shall endeavor to. And but I do want to ask Tony a question with regard to that, because we have been endeavoring to do this for many years, and then we finally, the non-voting member. And obviously, the Charter Commission is now eliminating all non-voting members. So that if we did decide to provide services, in-house services like this language in any way whatsoever, would that action conflict with this? I just want to make sure.
At the end of the day, it's more aspirational and that it's not a requirement, which I think is good because
Can't require boards to put us.
we look at, what a board of regional policy making body necessarily is, there might be some that, like a school board or something along those lines, that are not tending to require that we have a seat at it for them to be within our corporate boundaries or anything of that nature. But I don't think it has any issue with if we try to provide service directly.
Yeah, the irony here is that we were going to send somebody to the Charter Commission to urge that we may be made a voting member of the Board of Water and Light Board, so.
Mark, have there been any communications at all with that charter commission?
There have been communications with the city manager, and there have been obviously some communications through what press we have. Because we were quoted as, or the quote was that we were going to offer electric service to other communities in competition with BWL, so we should be booted off. And the reality is that was never a discussion within the city. what we were going to do, what we proposed to do at one point back at the end of the nineties or early 2000s was to purchase power from the Board of Water and Light and distribute it at lower rates. So buy it at wholesale, distribute it to our citizens at lower rates, because that's essentially what Eaton Rapids does. So I think there was a specific state statute at the time which permitted us to examine that, but that was either removed or changed at some point in time, so we didn't pursue it. So we've never talked about creating our own power. Think of how much that would cost. And then just selling it to our citizens, not at this point in time, anyway.
Do you know if it's the entire mission that's behind this thinking? The way that I read the City Pulse article is that there was basically the chair.
It seems like the chair is the engine on this particular thing. I don't know if he's got a beef with the city or not. He used to, I think he had a contract with the ASMSU he provided us, right? And is that contract still ongoing?
Yeah.
We were paying part of that at one time, and we stopped making payments because we ran out of money.
What's the contract?
What's that?
What is the contract?
It was a contract to provide legal services to students at MSU through ASMSU.
Okay, so any more discussion on that motion? If not, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion's approved unanimously. So then I've got a motion to amend chapter 20 to add, sorry, not amend, add 20.6. For historical purposes, chapter 8, municipal, chapter 8, municipal court was removed from the city charter on 11/4/97, and chapter 9, supervisors, was removed from the charter on 11/5/68. I guess I said removed, I should say repealed. So let me do it again. For historical purposes, chapter 8, municipal court was repealed on 11/4/97, and chapter 9, municipal court, was repealed on 11/5/68. And
So we're talking about renumbering that 2 point. What,
no, this would be 20.6.
we're talking about, this is a vote to change the number of that because we did.
You never did a motion on that to do it.
We're considering this for the first time.
Well, no, I know, so, but the reason that we're considering it is because we created a new 2.5, is that correct?
It's 20.6 because we just did 20.5.
Right.
Yes.
But might I also suggest that that is where the revisions we're going to capture from the renumbering would also go under that 20.6. Because that's the beginning of revisions. See what I'm saying? That's capturing a revision.
Well,
We're gonna have a bunch of revisions. Are they all gonna go under 20.6?
no, these are the only ones, these are the only chapters that were repealed off of
Okay,
this.
so that's the voting repeal change
Mhm.
versus where will then our modifications to the numbering that we're gonna capture.
Every time at the bottom of every
Okay,
chapter,
we're
it'll
gonna
say,
footnote.
yeah, that would be, because we're taking these completely out of there. And
Okay, so we're gonna
Never
put
see 'em
down the
again.
changes.
I think we should go back to 19. See if this is in fact the only time we've added or.
Oh, you're not joking, that is. Yeah, that's.
is it in the basement?
I didn't see it
On here? Is it on here?
Yeah, it's just the newest version.
So do we put the charter committee, do we just say us? Do we just take ownership of what we've done?
Changes.
Say in 2025 or whenever.
The
And
charter,
I would say these.
the charter committee removed chapter 8, municipal court that was repealed in 11,497, and chapter 9 supervises, which was repealed in 11,568 from the charter. And for historical purposes, we recognize that that took place. Got that? Okay, that's my motion. Is there a second? Okay. Moved by Gadara, supported by Rhodey, and, oh, I'm sorry, Wilkerson Johnson. I heard over there, but, okay, discussion on that. I'm just gonna say, it makes me feel better because I hated seeing that empty page there all this time, and then just to take it and just have it gone. We did have supervisors in a municipal court, and we changed the whole system, so. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes. Okay, now we're going down to, we're at project maintenance and impact study ordinance or charter. I believe we got that in with Jeff's 8.3. The permanent journal language 4.7, we approved that change in January 9th, so we discussed that in 4.7. The transparency, we could discuss it at another meeting if you'd like, Joe, but I think we've got that one done. And we talked about a recommendation of an ordinance regarding FOIA, that city council should introduce something like that. And we talked about so that would be in a letter to council that goes along with our charter resolutions. Water shut off policy. We said it seemed like there was no need when we reviewed that, how things were going. Renumbering charter chapters, we did that.
Second on water policy. I think we should write the board a letter saying that they should look at the shut off policy and an moderate appropriation to deal with hardships.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Are you talking about the Board of Water and Light?
No, I'm talking about our own water shut off.
We do have a policy. Has that been passed out?
Yeah.
Okay.
It has, but it isn't. I mean, I thought it wasn't being followed. It wasn't too long. It was too short, or we just think it should be, I personally think it should be looked at, and that there has to be some kind of policy or some kind of method for hardships.
I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah.
But if you're sending a letter to council, I think that would be more appropriate so that we can put pressure on that policy.
I'll draft it
Thank you, Jill.
sometime. Won't be.
We're gonna get to that sometime in a minute here. Okay, then the index, then request an ordinance for a timely amendment to the charter and ordinances. And we also talked about an ordinance for misconduct in office. And that was on my plate, that it would go, that I would draft that letter to go to council with our resolutions. And now we just would like to have that we have records retainment from the state of what's required, and that the update from the city on what they're doing here. So that goes along with our, so we'll request that council has that drafted and introduced, or it's not an ordinance, but it's just a review. Everyone's got that list.
The current
Right.
record retention policy.
Process.
How many letters are we talking about?
This is all one letter to me, from me, from. She's doing,
Roll it all up into one letter, right?
Yeah.
I forget how long it is, but.
and then, and that's all that's on my list.
So when I draft this, I should just send it to you, and then you'll put it in your stuff and send it to everybody.
Yeah, and I'm gonna work with somebody on this, but it begs a question that we should probably have, one more meeting where we approve what we just did, our third changes today, we look at the letter and we, what was the
We need
last,
to
in the
approve
minutes, because of, to bring it to closure. I know we'll have minutes from that, but, yeah.
Bring up another consideration, and then I was really struck by Jill's, guidance to the library about reiteration of
Not
our,
Jill, Lynn.
oh, sorry, Lynn.
Lynn.
About, sorry, Jill's doing everything, but, and maybe some sort of recommendation about library board's role with the director. I mean, maybe that could come in as some kind of I don't know.
Okay, so what I would like to do is circulate a letter that I'm gonna respond to Polly
And then we can
and,
respond with draft.
and that, and then we can, turn around and approve that or amend that. And if we can circulate these before our next meeting, then everyone has a chance to review it. And then we have the meeting to do it. So we have to need to set a target date for those to be done, and then we need to set a target date for our meeting.
In her letter, I mean, I don't think it's fair to say we reportedly rejected their language. I mean, I think that isn't what happened.
So obviously they're in the middle of their crisis right now.
That's why I think our response is good.
So, what would people like to propose? Do you want to take 2 weeks from today, which is Thursday, July something? My thing died, my iPad died, I left my phone at home, so I have no calendar, so July 10th. So, yes, no?
Can't be the 10th, but I don't need to be here either, so. Okay. The next week I'm available.
Do the 17th.
Top next week, yeah, whatever.
17th? Looking around here.
Is that okay, Mark, or is the board expecting it sooner, or?
Technically had a year from August 22nd,
Okay.
so I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, you've got as much time as you need to do your task. And just be aware that we only meet once in July, which will be a couple of days before you would meet on the 17th. And then we don't meet again until August 15th, I think. So we only meet twice over the summer.
All right. so-
That doesn't really impact any of this because we probably won't take any of this up until the fall anyway.
So our plan would be if we do the 17th and we get this out ahead of time, a week ahead of time, so that everybody has a chance to look at it. We do this, we approve the minutes from today's meeting, then the goal would be then to get on the agenda for August and simply say, here is a product of our work. We plan to be here when you discuss this. We'll have members of the committee to come, but our work is done and it's in your hands now. And we just introduced that at council and it's in your hands. And then they can set their agenda when they want to discuss whatever. Does that make sense?
What's the council date? Is it 12th or the 19th or?
12th,
Oh, okay.
We have a neighborhood association picnic that night.
the 12th, the 17th,
17th.
17th.
So should you have it?
That would be fine with me.
Um,
Diane and I are two of the 4 board members.
how about the 24th? Does that work?
I can't do it the 24th.
I cannot either.
On a Thursday,
No?
you can do.
How about the 15th of July? How does that work with people? If we stay in that same week, 15th or 16th, is anyone?
That's city council.
So 15th, 16th, how about that Wednesday? Okay. No,
Jeff, was it just the 10th you couldn't do, or was that whole week?
I've got a whole week, but yeah, it doesn't need to be based on me. So on that 21st of Tuesday.
People can volunteer their edits to the circulated letter if they can't be at the meeting.
so when is your 2 weeks? That you're gone?
I've got a horrible jaw schedule, so.
Everybody else make the 10th?
I prefer the 10th over later.
Nothing personal, Jeff.
Oh, it's fine.
Okay.
All right, let's go for the 10th. Thank you, Lynn, for the 17th, because
Sorry.
our device cream, I don't know anyone wants that. All right, so before we go.
Go changing everything on me at the last meeting.
We're striking.
Okay.
I was just joking, I said, don't go changing everything on me at the last meeting. I'm not here.
All right, I just want to take a point of personal privilege. First of all, I want to thank Grace because you've been really great at organizing things and keeping us, very good minutes. And they've been very helpful and, we really appreciate all your hard work in doing that because it's not an easy task for sure. And then also I want to thank Tony, and his staff who've helped us these past 10 months. And, while your time in the city is ending, I think your work will be in our charter for a period of time to come.
Wait, he's going too? What's happening?
What's that?
You're leaving?
My last day in the city attorney's Monday.
Keep anybody around here. It's starting to look like our problem.
So I would just like to thank him. He's been very helpful to us. So. And pass that on to your other representatives. So,
I think you got
That is correct. We're still.
He's not quite.
Yeah, and the council did pass a transition plan where I will be still the liaison. I'll still work with this committee.
Okay.
So I'll still be all this time.
okay. So with that, anybody else have anything else? I think we've brought closure to this for one more meeting and I thank you all. So motion to adjourn. Support. Veronica, supported by Pam, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned and thank you all.